God damn it, Elvis yelled. God damn it, didn't you hear what I said? Get someone else to move it. Judy had endured enough embarrassment, and she fled in return. Go to hell, you son of a bitch. That did it. It happened very fast. He took that pool cue in his fist, Sonny recalls. Then like he was throwing a spear, he just leaned back and threw it right at her across the pool table. But she had no time to duck. The sharp end of the pool cue bored right into her body. It hit her just above the nipple of the left breast. She didn't scream. It was more like a sharp little gasp as she crumbled backwards on the floor. Sonny dashed around the table to where Judy lay on the ground. Judy, you okay, hon? Sonny was worried. She was very pale, and she was lying there sobbing very quietly. Her face was whiter than vanilla ice cream. I was scared something had bad happened. It was a hell of a blow. When Sonny yelled out and asked Judy whether she was all right, Presley picked up another cue and replied, hell, yeah, she's all right. It was just one of those dramatic falls. Drag her ass out here. Sonny picked up the quietly sobbing Judy, and his arms carried her up the steps to the upper level of the den and laid her gently on the couch. A hush had fallen over the party. Everybody seemed embarrassed. Elvis called for Sonny to get back to the pool table. She was hurting, Sonny recalled. Her face was all screwed up with pain, and she was sobbing. Jesus. I felt awful. I talked to her, tried to calm her down, but she was hurt and she was mad, and I didn't blame her for being mad. She looked up at Sonny and repeated, that son of a bitch. Why did he do that? I never did anything to him. He needed have done that. She was holding her breast and sobbing. Gee, hon, said Sonny, I'm sorry that happened. I know he didn't mean it. It's just one of those reaction things, you know? It was temper. He didn't mean it. It's going to be all right. Sonny was angry at himself. Here he was covering for Elvis for what he thought was a particularly brutal act. If any other man had done it in Sonny's presence, he would have dismembered him. Then, recalled Sonny, she started talking about suing Elvis. I was worried about that in the back of my mind. She had every damn right to sue him. I told her not to be silly. She should forget about it. Then I very gently told her that she was in his house and she did insult him, and there were a lot of his friends around and as witnesses. And then I said, who do you think they're going to stand up for? Judy was steaming. I don't care who they will stand up for. I'm going to sue him. He deserves it. Sonny felt ashamed of himself. That really wasn't his style. Here was this little girl, victim of a sudden sadistic flash of temper, and he was trying to talk her out of suing. I wouldn't have blamed her, but he says, but I was so locked into Elvis. It was second nature for me to stand up for him, even when I knew he was very wrong. We had all brainwashed ourselves into that way of thinking. Judy got up and left. She never did file a suit. Sonny went back to the den after Judy left. He was angry at Presley. He scowled across the pool table at his boss, who had now calmed down and was obviously feeling guilty. He was trying to justify his actions. No way would he have said that he was wrong, according to Sonny. Look, Sonny, he said, if she had hit me or called me a bastard or told me to go myself, it would have been okay. Sonny scowled. Hey, man, that little girl was hurting. There's no need to do that. There was no need to do that. She just wanted me to move the damn car. Elvis was insistent that he had a right to do what he did. Then he said sheepishly, well, man, she shouldn't have called me a son of a bitch. That ain't right. Doctors reports that a particularly severe blow in the sensitive region of the breast can trigger a massive ailment, a tumour reaction, a cyst, or a blood clot. Soon after the pool cue incident, Sonny bumped into Judy on the strip in Hollywood. She was still very annoyed at what had happened. I apologised to her because it was a bad deal, and I quite liked it. I felt responsible because I brought her to the place. Anyway, I don't know whether it's true or not, but she told me that the pool cue had damaged some nerves in the left breast. The nipple of her left breast had dropped lower than the right breast nipple. Damn, that made me angry. She was a pretty little thing with a cute little figure. Son of a bitch. That made me angry. And the next chapter is about Dave Hebler and how he came to meet Elvis. When he first met Elvis, he was a 5th degree black belt, karate master. Yeah, well, apparently he started off white belt, etc. But then they just advanced him to that because he was Elvis. You know? That's what we read. We did research on this Elvis. What if he met Bruce Lee? Because here it says, one fall evening in 1972, Hebler met Elvis Presley for the first time. It was around 7, and Dave was working out at Ed Parker's karate studio in Santa Monica. Presley would often drop by the Parker studio. After a brief conversation, Presley got out on the mats with some of the most deadly karate talent in the country. He'd been an instructor Dave was an instructor having his own studio, so you don't know whether Ed manipulated it, but he paired him off with Elvis, perhaps thinking he could handle any problem that being paired off with Elvis could present. In these situations, one member of the pair acts as a karate dummy. That is, he takes simulated kicks and blows. He reacts as if the blows were making full contact. Often, of course they do, but in training you have to keep that stuff to a minimum or you would have broken bones all over the place. Real karate artists are very controlled both in their movements and their emotions. It's not something to be played at. Elvis didn't know half as much about karate as he thought he did, and too, he hardly knew where he was. He was moving very sluggishly and lurching around like a man who had had far too much to drink. When I got close to him, I could smell his breath, and it sure didn't seem as if he had been drinking. I mean, he was actually tripping over and damn near falling on his butt. Somehow I got the drift of things, and while I couldn't make him look like an expert, I tried to react to his moves in such a way that he wouldn't look half as bad as he could have. Of course, the entourage, headed by Linda, was fascinated by him. By the looks on their faces, you would have thought he was a worldly champion. Thankfully, the karate demonstration by Elvis ended, but then some bright spark suggested we have an impromptu tournament with guess who officiating. Elvis. Elvis, seeing the beginning of a very embarrassing situation, took up a position behind Presley, the referee. I'm standing behind him to help him by prompting the actions, left hand punch, right kick, and I was giving him the points so he would know who to appoint as a winner. At the end of it, Elvis sluggishly shook hands with Dave with a hint of recognition that Dave had helped him through an impossible moment, even for an experienced referee. Not that Elvis didn't sincerely believe he was in charge of the situation. He did, but in the back of his mind he must have recognised that this guy Dave had helped him. Or this person had helped him. Who's this guy with the turban? A gigantic custom-made blue Mercedes-Benz rolled up. Guys pulled out of it like it was a marine invasion. The last one out, of course, was King Elvis. It was quite an impressive sight. There were all these members of the palace guard walking in front of him as if they were casing in place, and behind him came the king. But what was the most amusing about the spectacle was Elvis's appearance. It was about 74 degrees, maybe warmer. Anyway, Elvis was wearing this unbelievable thick overcoat. It was black with red piping. He had a ring on every finger and a gigantic ram's head necklace, which I learned later the Hilton Hotel had given him as a present, and which I was told was worth $40,000. A ram head's necklace. I think that was a satanic symbol? Necklace? Don't know. And then get this on top of his head. He was wearing this goddamn turban. So help me. He looked like he had just walked out of a set for a Valentino movie. Underneath this overcoat he wore a karate gi, the traditional karate outfit. Dave's two little daughters, 12 and 11, were very impressed. However, he looked like an ancient sheik, but all he wanted to do was fool around on the karate mats. Presley seemed to lap up the atmosphere of karate. He was getting very expansive in his conversation. He was telling the assembly, which included Sonny, Ed Parker, Charlie Hodge, Elvis, his rhythm guitarist, and Gerald Peters, his chauffeur, a dry human Englishman who once drove for Winston Churchill, what he intended to do for the future of karate. I'm going to start my own karate system, Elvis promised. We will make our own movie about the art and have our own competitions. Presley himself planned to star in the lead role as the boss tough guy. That day Presley stayed there under the watchful eye of Sonny for about an hour. He went through some basic karate kicks and moves, but Dave noticed something about his movements that was very similar to what he saw the first time we met him at Ed Parker's studio. We had the idea if Elvis had really dedicated himself to the art, he could be really good. But he only played at it He never really worked hard at it and drove himself. Also, he seemed to stumble around a lot, tripping and fumbling moves. Although the sight of a man wearing a black and red overcoat, turban, necklace and rings, fanning the air with karate chops and kicks, was a curious enough sight, there was something else that seemed a little out of focus. He was sweating profusely, Dave says. I mean, he had a right to be with all that clothing on, but man, it was literally pouring out of him. And his eyes, they were big, red and watery. It was like he had had a dreadful case of fever. I just couldn't put my finger on what was wrong with him. After the brief visit, Elvis Presley led his entourage back to the blue Mercedes. As the impeccable chauffeur Peters held the door open for Presley, two of Dave Hebler's students looked at each other. Man, said one to the other, I'd like to have half of whatever he's got inside him. Both were young men who had brutal experiences with drugs. So yeah, Elvis was on something. There's some girl here. There was a striking looking girl, yet somehow had a quality of innocence. A beautiful mane of hair hung carelessly past her shoulders. She had gorgeous eyes, a petite but well-rounded body, dainty movements, and a very quick, shy laugh. Somewhere today, this girl, is called her Jane Robertson, which is not her real name, is trying to put together a life that she was almost ruined. She was not a model, not a singer, not an actress, just a giggly little girl who didn't smoke, didn't drink. If she had a vice, it was one that she shared with millions of women. A total infatuation with Elvis Presley. Okay, Elvis's last number. He looked stunning that night. A 36-year-old Adonis, arrogantly standing in the spotlight, orchestrating the audience with a tiny flicker of his bejeweled fingers. His mouth was sensually parting out the words of his closing number. I can't help falling in love with you. And as usual, middle-aged women who should have known better were swooning like teeny boppers in front of their portly husbands. In the second row of the packed audience sat Jane, totally mesmerised. As always, when Presley stood on stage. As Presley got halfway through his number, he whipped a sweat-soaked scarf from around his neck, kissed it and threw it into the audience. Women charged like Oakland Raiders linebackers, knocking over tables to the sound of broken cocktail glasses. Presley added to the pandemonium by reaching back into the band and producing more scarves. So he knew what he was doing. He knew very well. He would mop his forehead, kiss the scarf, he'd smile and sneer, right? And he'd float it into the audience and watch them, smile and sneer, watch them rip each other apart for it. The pandemonium that followed was unbelievable, as middle-aged ladies waged tug-of-war battles over the scarves with the man's perspiration on it. Oh my gosh. Jane just sat there in the second row sighing. She did not get a scarf that night. But she did get something else. Some very admiring glances from Elvis Presley. Every time he came to the edge of the stage, he would turn and wink at her. Jane was flabbergasted, but she didn't read too much into it. Why would he be attracted to her with all his women? As the show ended, Jane almost thought she saw Presley half wave to her. Impossible. She was drained of emotion. The show was over. It had been fantastic. Now for the night sleeping in the car before beginning his long trip home. Elvis was not the only one giving her the eye that evening. From off stage she received some very admiring glances from bodyguard Sonny West, a man not unused to the beauty of ladies at an Elvis performance. Also backstage with Sonny was Joe Esposito. Esposito, along with Dave Hebler, was one of the few non-Southerners in Elvis's entourage. Esposito was a fast-witted man from Chicago who had a reputation of being able to get things done quickly and smoothly. A taste for sharp clothes and a passion for diamonds caused the Memphis boys to call him Diamond Joe, a name that Esposito seemed to revel in. Esposito had met Elvis in the army and had been with him on and off ever since. He had a keen eye for anything that would please his boss, and for his trouble was the first member of the Presley entourage to be put on the regular payroll. He was Presley's most valued aide-de-camp. What Joe and Sonny were looking at in Jane Robertson was something that sure would please their boss. She simply oozed beauty and unself-conscious sex appeal. Not an ounce of makeup or lipstick on her face. She was really something else. As the show finished to thunderous applause and long, loud squeals, Sonny and Joe raced around to where Presley would leave the stage. The three of them got into the elevator that would take them to the master dressing room in the basement. Presley was drenched with perspiration and his chest was heaving. He had put every ounce of energy into the show. Good show, E, said Sonny. You really turned them on. Elvis nodded, thanks, but in his mind was somewhere else. God damn, man, did you see that gal sitting there in front of the audience? Hell, that was some good-looking piece of woman. Who is she? She was beautiful. Sonny and Joe were not surprised he had spotted her. Normally it's almost impossible to see an audience from a spotlight stage, but when Elvis had gone to the edge to throw the scarves, he had been able to see for the first time 3 or so rows. Yep, said Sonny with a big smile as he helped his boss off with a gleaming sequin white jumpsuit. I know, the one you're talking about, a real honey. Sonny didn't need any pictures drawn for him. He dashed upstairs as the dinner crowd was still recovering from their hysteria and zeroed in on Jane Robertson. Hi, hon, Sonny said. Do you want to meet Elvis? I'm Sonny West and I work security for Mr. Presley. I would be very happy to introduce you to him. The response was to be expected. Oh, come on, replied Jane, not familiar with the lines used by men on the make. You're kidding me. Sonny flashed a big charming smile. Nope, hon, here's my identification. I work for Mr. Presley. I would be very happy to introduce you. Come on, he's upstairs in his room. I'll take you all right up on up. Elvis was in the dressing room changing, so Sonny introduced her around. She exchanged small talk with Sonny and Joe on how much she'd enjoyed the show. She told them she had been an Elvis fan ever since she could remember being able to listen to music. She laughed and giggled shyly. Then Elvis materialised from the inner dressing room, and Sonny thought Jane was going to collapse. She had this great laugh, a beautiful shy personality. Boy, she was a looker. When meeting a new girl, Elvis really changes his line. He comes on very quiet, very attentive, very considerate. He turns on the little old country boy act like a tap, and the girls fall like chopped down oaks. Even if Elvis wasn't who he was, say he was just an old truck driver, say Sonny, when he turns on that country boy charm, he could romance the Queen of England. Not surprisingly, Jane stayed in Elvis's suite that night. Her mother would make the trip home alone. Elvis really dug her, say Sonny. He saw a lot of her during that engagement. Bought her some clothes and stuff. Not that she wanted them. She just wanted to be close to Elvis. But in a short while, Jane began to change in an ever so small way. Elvis started to give her a couple of pills here and there to give her a lift. Not that she needed it, but I guess she just didn't want to look like a hick or a square. She was never taking things with Elvis, as I know she had never taken anything before. She was taking things with Elvis, and I know she had never taken anything before, say Sonny. The night that Sonny would like to forget Elvis, Sonny and Charlie Hodge took Jane on a trip to the Presley home in Chino, Canyon Road, Palm Springs. When they arrived, Elvis was feeling like getting out of it. He had taken his usual dose of pills during the day, but as bedtime came around, about 3 in the morning, Elvis produced a bottle of prescription Hycodan, normally prescribed by doctors for severe cases of coughing and congestion. Hycodan in large quantities is a dangerous narcotic. Elvis would get out of his good on that stuff. He'd be off his tree, right? Sonny recalls. I've tasted it, yuck. That night Jane took a little swig. More giggles. Towards 4 a.m. the two of them were nodding off, giggling, stumbling and slurring their words and unhappy in unison. I get some sort of cough medicine, right? Then they went to bed. They kept swinging that stuff. We heard giggling and laughing inside the master bedroom. The next day Sonny had planned to force Elvis to take some sun. He was awful white looking, so we wanted him to get a tan to make himself look healthier. The entourage woke around 11 in the morning. Sonny and Charlie read the papers, waiting for their boss to rise from his heavy night. Noon came and went, recalls Sonny. Normally someone would have taken up his breakfast, but this day they didn't, and now it's getting on for 1 o'clock. I casually asked whether anybody had checked on Elvis. The point is that the fear of him taking the overdose is never far from our minds, although he was very skillful when it comes to measuring out drugs. He knows those drugs better than a doctor. But on this morning he had miscalculated. Sonny wandered back to the master bedroom to check. He went through the first door and then banged on the second door, which opened into Presley's suite. You getting up, boss? What do you want for breakfast? I'll fix it. Silence. Hey Elvis, boss, are you there? No answer. Sonny's heart started to pump. Jesus. He opened the door. Elvis was sprawled across the bed sideways. Inside the bedroom, the temperature is way down. It's freezing. He would keep that room temperature down so low you could hardly stand it. Sonny relates. I dashed over to Elvis. Boss, boss, boss. Come on, step out of it. Boss, boss. Sonny was screaming. He recalls that Elvis was taking long, deep breaths, about 5 seconds apart. Sonny crawled across the bed to where Jane was lying naked under the bedclothes. Jane, hun, come on, let's get up. Come on. Sonny will never forget what he felt then. Oh man, this was it. The whole trip was over. I was sure that they had both bought it, or they both died. I opened Jane's eyes. They were staring straight ahead like glass marbles. And there was that terrible gasp. She wasn't breathing properly. It was like a long, strangled, half-groan, half-gasp. I then opened their eyelids again, and they were blank. I slapped her across the face, heard a couple of times, but no reaction. I was scared. I yelled out to Charlie Hodge, "Charlie, you better get a doctor here quick. Elvis and his gal here are out of it real bad." Within minutes, a doctor, whom we called X, arrived at the house on Tunakini Road. By this time, Elvis had started to come around. Dr. X took one look at the girl, checked her pulse, her breathing in her eyes, and said, "We've got to get an ambulance up here. This girl's dying. We can't waste any time." Elvis was still staggering around like a drunken sailor. He told the doctor, "Come on, Doc, she'll be okay. Okay, just give her a shot of Ritalin. I'm telling you, she'll be okay." Sonny was getting exasperated. Here they had a girl dying on their hands, and Elvis was telling the doctor what to do. Man, I was hot. I could have smacked him right in the mouth. Damn fool, telling the doctor his business. Dr. X was obviously extremely concerned. Elvis started to argue with him. "It's just too much Vicodin, that's all. She was drinking the damn stuff like water. Just give her a shot of Ritalin and she's going to be okay." Dr. X cut him short. "No, we're getting her in an ambulance and straight to emergency." Within minutes, the ambulance sped to the house. Charlie Hodge and Sonny followed the ambulance to the hospital. They pumped her stomach, hooked her up to machinery and everything, said Sonny. Charlie Hodge looked at her, glanced back at Sonny, said, "Man, she looks like she ain't going to make it, Sonny." Looked at the ground, and for a moment he thought he was going to cry. Dr. X came across to him. "This girl is in a bad shape, I'll be honest. I can't promise anything. Why don't you go back to the house and I'll call you if there's any change." Sonny and Charlie drove back home in silence. Elvis was beginning to snap at it. He had popped some Ritalin. "Any change," he said, in a flat monotone. "No. The doctor doesn't know if she's going to live or die." Elvis frowned. "I told the girl not to drink that much. She was whacked." He went into the bedroom to make an important telephone call. Sonny was getting angry. Here was a girl dying on them, and within seconds, Elvis was telling everybody it had nothing to do with him. "I don't care how he cuts it," said Sonny. "It was his bottle of drugs. That little girl had never even touched a glass of champagne, and now because of him, she's battling for her life in the hospital. And all he can do is tell the doctor what to do, and then tell us it's all her fault. It is all her fault. Goddamn, he's a son of a bitch." About 7 that night, Charlie Hodge got the call from Dr. X. "She is starting to come out of it. She might be okay. I can't promise anything, but we're doing our best," he told Charlie. "Why don't you drop by the hospital?" So they went there, had a look. Sonny's skin crawled when he thinks of what happened next. He went across to her and touched her arm. "Jane," he whispered softly. She opened her eyes and suddenly, Sonny remembers, she came off that bed like a wild animal. She was hissing like a goddamn mountain lion, snarling like a wild beast. Shh, like that. Wow, I got scared. Sonny threw an alarmed glance at Dr. X, who explained, "She doesn't know where she is." "Is she okay?" Sonny asked. "Is she going to be okay?" "Well," said the doctor, "we don't know how much she is affected by it. We don't know how much oxygen will stop. We can just do our best and hope." Oh my gosh, thought Sonny. What if this little girl has turned into a vegetable just because of some crazy stunt back there in Chino Canyon? As Sonny and Charlie left the hospital, Sonny remembers that Jane was still having trouble breathing. She needed oxygen. And Elvis was sitting at home. "Yeah, I'd be alright," said Sonny. "She might just never be the same again. She was hissing at me like a damn cat. She didn't even recognise me." Elvis was off again on his own trip. All he said was, "Man." Sonny doesn't remember his ever making a telephone call to Jane, ever visiting her, or even acknowledge her existence for a long time. Someone else was doing the worrying. And Elvis was speaking to somebody else on the phone. One that he usually rings when he gets in trouble. Jane did call Elvis later that he spoke to her briefly. He told her, according to Sonny, "Hun, when you get a little bit better, I'll take you on tour." But Sonny relates she was out. Elvis didn't want to face the situation. Sonny saw Jane again. She and her mother had driven to Las Vegas to catch Elvis' show. He met her mother too. They were sleeping in the car because they couldn't afford a room in a hotel. Joe Esposito found out about it, picked up the tab, and put them up in a guest room in the Hilton. At the Hilton. When he spoke to her, she had tears in her eyes. "Sonny, don't you know I don't hold that against him. He didn't do anything. It was all my fault." There she was, taking the rap for the whole thing. He did get her to drink it. He was the king. Anyone would do anything to please him. Then Sonny grows sad. Man, it was all over for that little girl. Her face never lit up anymore. Whatever happened back there to her when she overdosed, it had affected her whole personality. She was a different person. There wasn't that shy giggle, that easy laugh anymore. She seemed to be deep and quiet and introverted. I'm no doctor, but that experience just turned her completely around. And yet, all she could talk about was Elvis. There was a genuine love there. Never heard Elvis talk about her again. By 1971, Elvis was a changed guy. He was no longer the shy, fun-loving kid from Memphis. No, he was just living for himself and all that damn junk he took. He was like a walking drugstore. So that's what your king of rock and roll was actually like, behind the scenes. At times. Looks like this has gone back to when he first started out with Sam Phillips.